Hey everybody, welcome to the RotoBaller YouTube channel. My name is Pierre, your friendly neighborhood Roto Chef, here to help you with Week 4 lineup advice, this time for wide receivers. Must start, must sit. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to be my 3 favorite guys at wide receiver that are kind of on that wide receiver 3, 4, flex kind of fringe. Guys that maybe you're not completely sold on. I'm going to tell you right now why you should start them. And then on the flip side, some guys that absolutely should be on your bench this week. So let's start off with an oldie but a goodie. That's Odell Beckham. Like, he's the only guy there basically in Cleveland. Jarvis Landry out. Everyone else, you really don't have to worry about. Nobody getting a decent target share at all, except for maybe Kareem Hunt at running back. But Beckham looked pretty good his first action of this season. Number one, he looked healthy. That's the main thing. He actually was healthy. 9 targets. That's really encouraging. A lot of talk about the Mayfield Beckham connection. If it's going to happen, it has to happen now. They are going to need him. So he caught 5 of his 9 targets for 77 yards. Could have been even more if he made that sideline catch. But so far, so good. And he gets an even better matchup going against Minnesota. I've not been a fan of this revamped defense so far. Had a little bit better showing in the second half of last week's game against Seattle, but it's still not a good pass defense. So far, they're giving up the second most yards per target at 10.83, and that is not good because, well, Beckham is going to get probably double-digit targets in this game if Minnesota's offense is as effective as it has been. Cleveland is going to be probably passing more than they'd like. We'll see. I don't know if Cleveland's defense is going to be what we saw last week because, well, they're not getting a rookie quarterback in Justin Fields. So I feel like there could be a lot of points on the board. Odell Beckham, it looks like he's back. He's going to get a high target share, favorable matchup. All systems go for OBJ this week. All right, let's go to Courtland Sutton. So, you would think he's an every week must start, but now people are down and worried because 2 out of 3 games have been disappointments. He had that huge game in week 2, but that was against Jacksonville. So why didn't he do better against the Jets? Why has he not been putting up these big numbers, especially with Jerry Jeudy out? Well, they didn't need to pass the ball last week. They just didn't. And you know what? Let's look at the fact that so far the Broncos, they've had a cupcake schedule, if there ever was one. In 3 weeks, they've played the Giants, the Jaguars, and the Jets. Okay, so they just really haven't had to pass the ball a whole lot. They haven't had a lot of resistance. This time they're going to get the Ravens. It's going to be a little bit more of a struggle. That means not as easy a time for the running backs, and they can't just sit back and chew some clock. They're going to have to push the envelope just a little bit. Sutton is the clear guy. They're number one. Even bigger target share in store with KJ Hamler now out for the season. Judy's still done. And so I feel like we're going to see a jump in production from Sutton this week. And then my last must start, going back to the well here with Rondale Moore. So didn't quite pay off last week. That game was just weird all around. The Jaguars somehow held tough. Look, give them credit. At least they're kind of fighting now these days, trying to pretend to win. Last couple of weeks haven't happened, but you know what? They're getting closer. And so we just didn't see a lot of targets go to Rondale Moore. Didn't happen, only 2. Hopkins didn't have a good game either, all right? Let's face it. It was for some reason A.J. Green is just getting a lot of looks. Christian Kirk had another decent game. So why would it be different? Well, against the Rams, that's a really tough pass defense. We know Jalen Ramsey is going to be all over DeAndre Hopkins. We know that the rest of the corners in LA are also tough, and they're going to be giving attention to those other guys. Rondale Moore, again, a guy that moves around a lot. They're going to use him out of the slot, through the backfield, motion a lot. And what is good about Moore so far in the first couple of weeks of the season, he's been one of the most effective receivers against zone coverage, and that is the type of coverage that the Rams prefer to use. So based on individual matchups and schemes, I think Moore has a chance to be a sneaky option this week when a lot of people are going to fade him because last week he didn't do anything. And it's a really good defense that they're going against, so I get it. But I'm going to trust that Moore is going to get more involved this week. And then last week was just kind of a fluke because he was heavily used the first 2 weeks. All right, now must sit. Julio Jones, we're not sure if he's going to even go in week 4, ankle issue. So you can't keep him in your lineup. You just can't, because even if he does play, how effective he's going to be, we've seen throughout the years, especially recently, Julio playing injured just doesn't always, just doesn't always cut it for fantasy purposes. At least let's put it that way. So then why am I lumping him the rest of these Titans receivers with Julio? Because it's just a desperation move. You look, okay, well, who's next up? It's Chester Rogers. It's Nick Westbrook-Ikine. He scored a touchdown. Do we really need to be finding guys as replacements? Sure, they might get some looks, but are you really trusting one of them in your fantasy lineup this week? Because I'm not. We don't think that this game is really going to be that high scoring in general. The Titans now are going to face the Jets. Just talked about the Jets a little while ago. The Jets, you know what? They don't have an offense, and they don't do a lot of things great still. But the one thing they've actually done well is they're limiting production, believe it or not, to wide receivers. So far, the fourth fewest fantasy points per game allowed to wide receivers, and that's the Jets defense. So I guess give Robert Saleh some credit there, defensive-minded head coach. So I'm not going to trust that any of these guys is going to all of a sudden boom. It might just be a Derrick Henry game. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a Derrick Henry game. So I'm not looking for whoever's going to play there. I'm just sitting all Titans receivers and tight ends, in case you were wondering, in this game. And then we got JuJu. Well, you know what? This really isn't based on matchup. This is based on the fact that I think Big Ben is toast. That arm is just not what it used to be, clearly. And Deontay Johnson looks like he's going to come back. Obviously, that hurts JuJu's target share. But what are we waiting for with JuJu? I mean, going back to Pittsburgh, it just didn't do him any favors. I don't know why we can start him at this point. With Johnson in or out of the lineup, it doesn't matter. The first 3 games so far, he's averaging 39.3 receiving yards per game. He's still getting some receptions, but really, you're basically just scraping the floor here. There's no upside. There's no hope for a huge game from him. He is what he is at this point, and that's kind of a desperation play or like a bye-week fill-in. Look, I love JuJu as much as anybody. Helped me win a couple of championships back in 2018. But his placement in this offense, it's not fantasy friendly. So all signs here point to the fact that he's got to be on your bench this week and pretty much going forward unless you have some reason that you need to start him. And then my last pick as a sit is Darnell Mooney. Look, I talked about the Bears before. If you look at the must-start sit running backs, I like David Montgomery. I'm putting a little bit of faith in the Bears that they'll do the smart thing and try to run the ball, maybe help out their rookie quarterback. I don't think I feel like I can trust any of the receivers. Allen Robinson's a different story. Talk about him being quarterback proof, not so much. And he's not coach proof and scheme proof. And then Mooney here, the number 2 option, you just have to sit him. Look, I know some people would be tempted to say they'll do better. Yeah, I think they'll do better. Will they do great in the passing game? And then you see it's the Lions. Still, you can't just base your decisions on matchup. This is a bad defense. Everyone's going crazy. They're not. It could just be a low-scoring game. It could just be, that nobody on the Bears, in the passing game at least, is worth starting. And I think we have to treat it that way until we see otherwise. So Mooney, for me, much as I like his talent, I think you've got to sit him. All right, that's my wide receiver start sit. Again, check out that running back video too. Guys, we're going to be updating our rankings throughout the weekend, so check back at RotoBaller.com for all the latest and especially our news desk, always on top of things. Good luck in week 4.